it's a handsome deal, I must be honest with you, and therefore I'm not surprised they accepted it. I think on your news item there was the crunch point, which is coming with the two sets of public sector workers, junior doctors, who say they want God knows what to fill up their pay packets, and the RMT. Now, the issue with the RMT is not simply about pay. What the employers have said is, you guys have got to have less. You've got to have new, modern ways of doing things. Now, I've been through this pain at Wapping, and the printing unions had won every battle for 1,000 years. So it was no surprise that when they were defeated, there was an almighty row. The RMT, what they're saying is, we want the money, but we don't want to change the way we work. That is not acceptable. So this dispute is going to go on for, I hope, a long time until the employees win, because at the end of the day, it is the passengers who are now funding this business. With the BMA, I am less sure that there will be a deal which could be done in line with the way that the nurses and the ambulance workers, they want like 25, 27% more money. They're not going to get this. And what they have proved disgracefully, and there was 177,000 procedures and appointments scrapped over the 3 days, is they don't care what pain they put you or your relatives or your mum or dad through, right? And there is, to my knowledge, I know one person who's had a very discomforting moment over all this, and they're doctors. So if they don't care, who does care for them? So I'd love to hear a justification from either a doctor or anybody for how the BMA can possibly act in this manner. I find it absolutely disgusting and disgraceful.
Sebastian, it's hard to argue with that, isn't it? As Kelvin said, 175,000 appointments, procedures were cancelled because of the junior doctors' strike. Are they losing the moral high ground?
Well, it's hard to argue that it's disgusting and disgraceful that that happened. I think where it becomes much harder to agree is the idea that it's purely the fault of NHS staff. When this is a situation that the government is allowed to happen. And I mean, just to put these strikes in general in perspective, public sector pay was due to increase by about 2% on average, whereas private sector pay has increased by 6%. At the same time, this is in the context of 10% inflation. So we're all worse off, and it's all because of massive strategic errors by this government. And because of poor choices in public policy that have been going on now for over 20 years or longer. If it's because of deindustrialization, it's because of weak energy policy. There's no point going on at some small group of workers. I agree. It's a poor thing when public sector workers, especially the NHS, is out on strike. They shouldn't be doing it. But the government has helped create the situation. They've created a situation in which doctors are forced to choose between living in a completely declining, underfunded system or going on strike, and neither of those outcomes are good.
Kelvin, are they greedy?
Well, I mean, let's face it. If we're talking about doctors, they are the cream of the crop. They are the prize academia with their A-level results, and they're very bright people, and they are, to my mind, worth more money. I have absolutely no doubt about that. I'm not inclined to pay them through the public purse. I don't want to see the NHS continue. If they want more money, they should go outside. And I would be delighted if there were a system of insurance or private payment where you could claim your tax, where you could claim your money back, rather than the system now where they're caught up in some rather disgraceful organised labour, of which they then send us the bill and say, you're going to pay this or we aren't going to work, we're going to let your mum die, we're not even going to look after A&E, we're not going to even look after intensive care. Do you know what? So I've seen two great shocks in my last 25 years. One is the fact that the RMT can't cause any damage at all. You want to go on strike, mate? Go on strike for as long as you like. We'll work out a way around it. But the other thing that really upsets me is the manner in which members of the NHS particularly doctors, are prepared to say, there is no price that we won't make you pay for our pay packet. I honestly urge them, get out of the NHS and go into private.
Well, that's the thing, Sebastian. The BMA is talking about how fantastic the NHS is as a socialised system. We all pay into it. Everyone has universal care. But the doctors themselves seem to be voting with their feet, moving to places like Australia, America, where there's a totally different system where essentially the market decides how much a doctor is worth. Surely all of these strikes are a symptom of a public sector, lots of public sector services that are stuck in the past.
Well, they're certainly stuck in the past, and it's a healthcare system failure. But I do want to be careful here about this idea that we can just shift it into the private sector, because the fact is that in a modern society, the costs of health are always socialised one way or another. If you look at somewhere like America, the overall amount they spend on healthcare is vastly higher than we do at a government level, never mind the private sector. Now, I think we need more resources in the NHS, in the healthcare sector, and I'm not against finding ways to get private investment in there, whether that's public insurance, whether that's a private insurance system. I haven't closed my mind to that, but I think it's naive to think that we can individualize this, that we're all going to pay the cost one way or another of ill health, of social care, of all these things. So,
well, it would be nice if our... Sebastian, sorry.